Jovia,
Yes.
you been see. Oh, the walk padà sí. Check the light man. Ọwọ́ yín ló ṣò.
No, my continuity. Yeah, too much you talk about it.
Okay. Picture yín fáyọ̀. Fóònù lẹ́nu náà. Ṣé fún yẹn
Talk by
Samsung náà?
yourself. Talk by. See yourself.
Ẹ̀rí kùn mi.
95.1. Royal FM 95.1, your preferred radio station.
You see me now, so I'm saying.
Royal FM 95.1, we set the pace. This is Royal FM News.
Good evening. Thank you for staying with us. Royal FM 95.1. Lady Laurie. Here's the news around the globe. First, the headlines. Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism, Mohamed Mohammed, restates commitment of government to protect lives of Nigerians. Federal High Court grants leave to two groups to apply for judicial review and order to compel Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) to provide details of financial donations received in relation to coronavirus pandemic. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) rearraigns former secretary to the government of the Federation, Babachir Lawal, over alleged complicity in grass-cutting contract fraud. Residents of Amsterdam Housing Estate Phase 1 lament erosion menace, seeks government intervention. On a foreign scene, Iran buries assassinated nuclear scientist. In business news, IMF 6 unified exchange rate for Naira. In entertainment news, Saved by the Bell apologizes to Selena Gomez for kidney transplant joke. In sports news, Royal Spanish Football Federation poised to fine Barcelona for Messi's celebration. You listen to Royal FM 95.1 in Lorry. You can also listen to us by visiting the Royal FM website www.royalfm.net. I am Sili Tapwe Unleye. Join us for details of the stories after the break.
Dinner is served. Correct goat meat pepper soup.
Big sis, the aroma na die. Let's eat, Joe.
Just like that. First,
We have to pray.
no, take a selfie. This one can give me more than 1,000 likes on Instagram.
Hey, okay now, but your hair is covering your face.
Thank you, Jerry. Mommy, yay! My eye, oh, my eye, Pepe, Pepe, oh,
Sorry.
I have to head that I touched my eye.
But I told you to wash your hands. You go inside the toilet. Let me wait outside.
Yeah, my face!
What is it again?
Hot water from the heater. Hey, every time I have this now.
Pepper entering your eye is not the worst thing that can happen to you. You can get the coronavirus when you touch your eyes, nose, and mouth with hands carrying the virus. That's why it's important to wash your hands more often with soap and clean water. Wash for at least 20 seconds, the same time it will take you to sing the happy birthday song twice.
It's up to you to protect yourself and your family from COVID-19. Now your hand clean.
Welcome back to the news around the globe, and now the news in detail. The Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism, Lai Mohammed, today said that the federal government will not stop protecting the lives of Nigerians. Mohammed made a remark in an interview with newsman Makadi while reacting to the weekend killing of over 43 persons in Borno State shortly after a policy visit on Governor Samuel Orto. The minister, who expressed worries with certain factors frustrating the battle against insurgency, noted that fighting terrorists is not a joke, as he described what actually happened in Borno State as quite unfortunate. He also advanced the reason why Boko Haram activities may continue unabated, saying that Nigeria has been denied access to acquire adequate weapons to fight terrorists, and Nigerians will remain at the mercy of terrorists.
Who talk about terrorism, they don't seem to appreciate the fact that terrorism is not a local issue, it's a global issue. And there's no part of the world that is not expressing its own pocket of terrorism. And I'm glad that you heard from the governor himself that the federal government has assisted a lot in curbing the insecurity in Benue State. We will never stop protecting lives and livelihoods. But you must understand that we're also dealing with terrorists who are financed, globally, and we also need more support from the from global, partners. For instance, Nigeria has made attempts to acquire better and more effective platforms to deal with terrorists. And for one reason or the other, we have been denied these platforms, these weapons. And without adequate weapons, without adequate platforms, would remain, at the mercy of, terrorists. But you see, fighting terrorists is not a joke, because what actually happened in Borno State through this was quite unfortunate. But you see, you must also be able to look at the strategy of the terrorists. You see, terrorists, they use media and publicity as oxygen. So when they go on this kind of mindless killing of innocent people, it is just that a dying terrorist group will now suddenly again spring to life. But it does not mean that the government is not doing enough. Terrorism, whether it's in Afghanistan, whether it's in anywhere in the world, has the same concept.
Meanwhile, a federal government delegation led by the Senate President Ahmad Lawan arrived in Maiduguri, Borno State today on a condolence visit over the killing of farmers at the weekend by terrorists. Members of the delegation include the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gabari, Ministers of Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Bello, Communications and Digital Economy, Ali Pantami, and the Minister of State for Agriculture, Mustafa Babat Shekuri. The delegation aims in Borno on behalf of President Muhammad Buhari and the federal government to commiserate and identify with the family of the victims, the government and the people of Borno State over the incident. The presidency says the 43 farmers that were killed by Boko Haram on Saturday did not have a military clearance to be on the rice farms when the attack happened. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, said this in an interview with the BBC today. He said while not blaming the victims for the incident, the truth must be said. The president's spokesman said terrorists had planted landmines in several places in Borno State, and nobody ought to go to these places until the military has cleared such places. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, today rearraigned a former secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachir Lawal, before an Abuja High Court at Maitama over his alleged complicity in grass-cutting contract fraud to the tune of about 554 million naira. Lawal, who served as SGF under President Muhammadu Buhari between August 27, 2015 and October 30, 2017, entered a fresh plea of not guilty to an amended 10-count charge the FCC preferred against him and 6 others. The ex-SGF was, among other things, alleged to have connived with the other defendants and illegally diverted a contract to the Presidential Initiative for Northeast Pine, awarded for the removal of grasses in internally displaced persons' IDP camps, to his own company. A federal high court in Abuja has granted leave to 2 groups to apply for judicial review an order of mandamus to compel the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to, among others, provide details of financial donations received by the country in relation to the coronavirus pandemic. Justice Inyang Ekwo, in ruling today, also granted them permission to seek an order for the court to declare that the failure of the CBN to provide the plaintiff information on the sources of donations, how they are being applied, among others, amounted to a violation of the plaintiff's rights under the Freedom of Information Act and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. The ruling was on an ex parte motion filed by the Registered Trustees of Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project (CIRAP) and Head and Resource Center, with the CBN governor listed as sole respondent. Justice Ekwo ordered the plaintiff to file within 7 days a formal application for the order sought, which it must serve for the respondent within 7 days. The judge ordered the respondent to, upon being served, files its response within 30 days. The reliefs the applicant seeks to apply for includes an order compelling the CBN governor to disclose and make a comprehensive breakdown of financial donations received towards responding to the emergence of COVID-19 till date. The Senate of the University of Ibadan today elected Professor Debola Babatunde Ekola, the new acting Vice Chancellor of the university. Before now, Ekola is the current Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics. He was elected today, the same day the tenure of Professor Idowu Olayinka expired as the VC of the university. Ekola was said to have scored a total of 275 votes to defeat 4 other professors nominated for the position. Professor A. Rulaye was said to have scored 80 votes to come second, while Professor Adigun Agbaje polled 15 votes to place third. Professor Wimisaloki polled 14 votes, and Professor Olanike Adeyemi got 13 votes. Oyo State Governor Mr. Seyi Makinde today said himself and Governor Adeboyega Oyetola of Osun State had to set aside politics and ego in resolving the ownership crisis that ravaged the hitherto jointly owned Ladoke Akintola University Technology of Omosho. Makinde, who spoke in Osogbo during a thank you visit to Oyetola in his office, declared that his Osun State counterpart acted like a statesman and put the interest of students of the institution above other considerations. He said at the peak of the ownership crisis, different groups in the university were feeding him and Oyetola with different information, but noted that after considering all sides of the issues, the need to protect the future of the students emerged paramountly. He then assured that notwithstanding the change in ownership status of the institution, indigents of Oyo and Osun School and University will continue to enjoy the same privilege. An Kwara State, the Association of Resident Doctors has called for attitudinal change regarding sexual violence in Nigeria, which it said has been on the increase and underreported. Speaking today at the 37th annual meeting of the Association of Resident Doctors, the president of the association, Dr. Olosude Julius, noted that semen body fluid identification remains a critical aspect of the forensic investigation of alleged sexual assault. He called on government to provide forensic science equipment for DNA analysis to fast-track sexual violence investigation in order to ensure justice for victims. While speaking of the brain behind the free medical and surgery outreach taken to Oro community, he said the association plans to offer free medical and surgery for 500 to 1,000 Kwa residents. Dr. Olosude also called on the Christ governor, Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, and other well-meaning Nigerians for their support towards the actualization of the free medical and surgery outreach.
Why we don't advocate that people should dress indecently? We believe that people should be able to control themselves. It's just like people stealing or any other crimes. So indecent dressing should not be an excuse for somebody to get sexually assaulted. We still advocate that men should dress decently. But indecent dressing should not be a yardstick to say this is the cause of sexual violence. Because we've had situations of people even well dressed being sexually assaulted. So it may not really be an underlying factor. That somebody is moving around naked, he may be mad. He may have some mental problem. Does not mean that somebody should go and rape such an individual. So I think we should delineate that while we advocate that people should dress decently, but it should not be an excuse for sexual violence or for somebody to be sexually assaulted. I hope that with our conference, with this AGM, we are going to empower victims of sexual violence, both those that have been affected in the past and those that will be affected in the future, to be able to come forward and make their complaints and be able to at least get some form of justice for the incidences, the ugly incidences that happen to them. Currently, I'm able to provide exact data, but I know that within months, there are reports of between even 4 to 5 or 6 cases per month that we see that come to the hospital, those that are reported within the hospital.
While speaking on second phase of COVID-19 that is already being experienced by other countries, the resident doctors president called on Nigerians to always observe COVID-19 guidelines in order to prevent the spread of the virus. In other news, residents of Asadam Housing Estate Phase 1 in Lorry has appealed to Governor Abdulrazak Abdurrahman to come to their aid and save them from the seasonal nightmare of erosion in the area. Chairman Asadam Housing Estate Phase 1, Prince Adeleke Adewumi, who made the appeal on behalf of other residents, described the level of erosion, devastation on house owners in the area as worrisome and continued to unleash on them over the years. While explaining that the medicine expansion of the gully took over 1% of the size of their lands and properties in the last rainy season, Adewumi said the appeal became imperative ahead of another rainy season. He called on Governor Abdulrazak Abdurrahman to come to their aid, as he has done in other communities.
Adewumi, I am the chairman of Harmony Estate Association. We have an association called Harmony Home Owners Association. So this association belongs to Asadam Housing Estate Phase 1. We have Phase 2, we have Phase 1. It's at Asadam Axis. We are in between the Ibijila community and another community that goes down to the dam area. But the major issue that is dividing us as a community now, that is creating great enmity, is the issue of this erosion. Erosion is eating deep into this community. There are many houses who have their fence fell off, especially when it's raining. So we wrote letters to the Ministry of Environment. They came, they sent their inspectors. They spent more than 2 hours going around writing their papers, everything. They saw what we are feeling. And unfortunately, we have not heard anything from them again. So probably because of lack of continuity in the commissioner or the officers in charge, that's why we will not be able to get anything. Now we are appealing to the state governor, our amiable, our energetic, our God-fearing, very kind-hearted Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, because we want to be talking so that he can hear it, because we know what he's doing outside, within the state. He's a great man. I want to benefit from this greatness. We want our problem to end with his regime. Now that he's the governor now, we are very, very sure, we are optimistic that we will come to a head, because we are tired and we are fed up and we don't have anything we can do. It's beyond our power as a community. We just need professional touch of the governmental bodies to come and assist us with Kwara Property. They are doing of the estate, so that they can guide us on how we can channel our drainage, so that we will stop having this problem of erosion and fence collapse year in, year out. That is the problem we are facing.
And that is it on local news. Up next is foreign news. Please stay tuned.
I'm especially concerned that malaria is a major public health problem in Nigeria, with over 97% of the population at risk, especially pregnant women and children under 5 years. Kwara State is also facing a high degree of malaria illnesses caused by mosquito bites, as so many lives, and had made many of us to get sick in the past, and is still causing more deaths. I reinstate again that mosquito net is very, very safe. I have been using it for over 25 years of malaria. So I will want to assure all pregnant women and elderly women and small children that sleeping in this net is very, very safe.
This message is from the government and the malaria partners.
Ina mai son sayan kati ko mai son sayan data, biyan kudin hada-hada ko na goji babu gargada. Wakilin Momo. A wajen wakilin Momo za ku iya karɓa da aika kuɗi, za ku iya ɗebo kuɗi daga asusunku na banki ba tare da kuna da katin kira ko data ba. Sannan za ku iya siyan katin kira da data, kai har ma za ku iya biyan kuɗaɗen hada-hadar yau da kullum a duk inda kuke. Sai ku danna *223 don lalubo wakilin Momo mafi kusa da ku. Wakilin Momo, ba haɗari ga sauri ba tare da wahala ba.
Ọmọ Twisco mọ̀ nítorí wọ́n máa ń jí pépé. Àgbẹ̀ ohun mímu Twisco chocolate drink tuntun dé o. Àpapọ̀ kòkó, mílìkì àti malt lọ́nà ọ̀tun. Ó kún fún èròjà Enafort tó jẹ́ àpapọ̀ vitamin àti mineral tó ń fọmọ lókun tí wọ́n nílò fara tó jí pépé. Twisco ó ń fún ẹ lágbára láti mú èrò ọkàn rẹ ṣẹ.
Welcome back once again to the news around the globe. Moderna is filing for use in emergency approval for its coronavirus vaccine so that it can be recommended for widespread use. Regulators will look at the trial data for the mRNA vaccine designed to be safe and effective enough to prevent coronavirus. Clinical studies show that is more than 100% effective at protecting people from becoming ill with COVID-19. Pfizer, which has a similar jab, has already filed for the same US approval. UK regulators are also reviewing data on the Pfizer vaccine as well as another type of COVID-19 COVID vaccine from AstraZeneca and Oxford University for emergency approval. Now going on to business news for today.
This is Royal FM Business News.
In business news today, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) has urged the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) to get the country a unified exchange rate for the naira. It remains stable at 378 naira to dollar on the CBN's official rate. The naira was on Sunday exchanging at 500 naira to a dollar at the parallel market. The currency got to a long-time low after weakening by 4 naira from 496 naira to a dollar. It closed on Friday. The IMF said the Nigerian economy is struggling with multiple shocks and is expected to grow by minus 4.3% in 2020 before a modest recovery in 2021. The IMF said exchange rate rigidities have constrained the economy's ability to absorb external shocks. It called for a unified exchange rate for the naira to promote growth and attractive foreign capital. According to the IMF, foreign exchange backlog and shortages are intensifying balance of payment pressures, insisting that exchange rate unification was imperative to reduce BOP risks. IMF said fiscal deficit will stay elevated in the medium term, while additional domestic revenue mobilization is required to reduce fiscal risks. Up next is entertainment news.
This is Royal FM Entertainment News.
In our entertainment update today, the makers of Saved by the Bell have apologized to Selena Gomez for a joke made in a recent episode about her kidney transplant. A spokesperson for NBC said it was never our intention to joke about her surgery. The rebooted series features the episode where two characters argue over who donated the kidney to the singer in 2017. NBC also said they have been in touch with Gomez about making a donation to her charity. 28-year-old Selena received a kidney transplant 3 years ago after being diagnosed with the autoimmune disease lupus. That is entertainment news for today. Up next is sports news.
This is Royal FM Sports News.
And in sports news, Wolves striker Raul Jimenez is conscious in hospital and speaking after a clash of heads during his side's Premier League win at Arsenal. Sunday's match at Emirates Stadium was in its early stages when Jimenez and Ghana's defender David Luiz accidentally collided at an Arsenal corner. Jimenez, who was carried on the pitch on a stretcher, scored 17 goals as Wolves finished 7th in the Premier League last season. And that ends the sports update. Before we end today's news around the globe, here are the highlights of the news as brought to you. Minister of Information and Culture and Tourism, Lai Mohammed, restates commitment of government to protect the lives of Nigerians. Federal High Court grants leave to two groups to apply for judicial review and order to compel Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) to provide details of financial donations received in relation to coronavirus pandemic. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) arraigns former Secretary to the Government of the Federation Bachir Lawal over alleged complicity in grass-cutting contract fraud. Residents of Asadam Housing Estate Phase 1 lament Hiroshi Mene seeks government intervention. On the foreign scene, Iran buries assassinated nuclear scientist. And this is news. IMF seeks unified exchange rate for naira. In entertainment news, Saved by the Bell apologizes to Selena Gomez for kidney transplant joke. In sports news, Royal Spanish Football Federation poised to fund Barcelona for Messi's celebration. With that, we come to the end of today's news around the globe. It was compiled and edited by Dada Mamanushi. The comments, observations, and information regarding unfolding events around you kindly call the Royal Information Newsroom on 085 0999 968. I am Good evening, and thank you for listening.
We have come to the final question of today's edition of and Joy, a hairdresser, is on the hot seat today. Now, Joy,
Sir?
you offer police bribe, him no take. If it happen, I think you know if it happen.
Offer police bribe. If it happen,
Is that your final answer?
that's not my final answer.
Joy,
Sir?
you are correct. But Joy, why you say if it happen?
Because with good laws, proper funding, training, and cooperation, if it happens.
Yes, so if it happen.
Royal FM 95.1. We are premier. We are royal.
ọ̀rẹ́ mi má gbé kúrò Royal FM àní o má gbé kúrò Royal FM 95.1 ìkànnì tó dùn sí gbọ̀ngàn tó kàn sí.
Wọ́n sọ̀n jọ.
ọ̀rẹ́ mi má gbé kúrò Royal FM àní o má gbé kúrò Royal FM 95.1 ìkànnì tó dùn sí gbọ̀ngàn tó kàn sí.
ọ̀kan ṣoṣo àràbà tó mi gbó kìjikìji ọ̀hún rèé.
Ó takálẹ̀ takako
ìròyìn àgbáyé lẹ fẹ́ gbọ́ ni àbí torílẹ̀-èdè.
látàrọ òṣèlú eré ìdárayá àbí tamúlùdùn
ẹyẹ tí ó dorí kodò bí àdán òsì.
ilé-iṣẹ́ Royal FM 95.1 Ìlọrin lẹ́ ó ti máa gbọ́.
Okay. Ẹ kú ọjọ́rọ̀ ẹ sì kú ìsinmi òní. Ẹ kú ọjọ́rọ̀ ẹ sì kú iṣẹ́ òní. Wọ́n ní àkójọpọ̀ ìròyìn ọjọ́rọ̀ láti lè ṣe Royal FM 95.1 nílùú Ìlọrin. Ṣáájú ẹgbẹ́ àwọn kókó tó wà nínú ìròyìn ọ̀hún. Mínísítà fẹ́tò ìròyìn àṣà àti ìnàjú afẹ́lẹ́lẹ̀ wa Lai Mohammed ti tẹnumọ́ ìlàkàkà ìjọba ilẹ̀ wa láti dáàbò bo ẹ̀mí àwọn ọmọ ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Ilé ẹjọ́ gíga ìjọba àpapọ̀ ti gba ẹjọ́ àwọn ẹgbẹ́ méjì wọlé láti pẹjọ́ kí wọ́n sì pa aláṣẹ fún ilé ìfowópamọ́sí àgbà ilẹ̀ wa CBN láti ṣàgbéjáde lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ àwọn ẹ̀bùn owó tílẹ̀ wá rí gbà wọlé lórí ọ̀rọ̀ àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn coronavirus. Àjọ amúnimádà EFCC ti tún kojú akọ̀wé síjọba àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa tẹ́lẹ̀ Babashiru Lawal bá ilé ẹjọ́ lórí ẹ̀sùn lílọ́wọ́ sí ìwà jìbìtì lílù lórí owó iṣẹ́ kọngílá koríko gígé. Àwọn olùgbé níléègbé Asadam Housing Estate Phase 1 ti kẹ́gbẹ́ àjáre síta lórí kòtò gìrìwò tí àgbàrá òjò ń dá sílẹ̀ níbẹ̀. Wọ́n pè fún ìrànwọ́ ìjọba. Ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ yọ̀ ń bọ̀ láìpẹ́.
ọ̀rẹ́ mi orílẹ̀-èdè tí wàá sún ni ó ga ọ́ tó mo máa ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ nìkan ló mọ̀ ṣú ni ó jẹ́ àgbà fọ́lọ́ orílẹ̀-èdè yóò máa lè dá a mọ́.
Àgà ẹ má sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́ ẹ ò bá sì jáwọ́ nínú sísọ̀rọ̀ òdì àti fífẹnu tẹ́ńbẹ́lú orílẹ̀-èdè yìí torí pé orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà yìí sì máa dùn.
ìkìlọ̀ yìí wá láti iléeṣẹ́ Royal FM 95.1 Ìlọrin.
Ẹ káàbọ̀ padà ìròyìn ọ̀hún rèé lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ Ọláyínká Òṣàyọ̀mí ló níròyìn yìí. Mínísítà fẹ́tò ìròyìn àṣà àti ìnàjú afẹ́nilẹ̀ wa Lai Mohammed ti sọ wípé ìjọba àpẹẹlẹ wa yóò máa tẹ̀síwájú láti dáàbò bo ẹ̀mí àti dúkìá ọmọ ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Mohammed ló sọ̀rọ̀ yìí lásìkò táwọn oníròyìn ń béèrè ọ̀rọ̀ lọ́wọ́ rẹ̀ nílùú Makurdi lásìkò tó ń fèsì sí nílùú Maiduguri lásìkò tó ń fèsì lórí ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ àgbọ́sọgbánà tó wáyé lópin ọ̀sẹ̀ níbi tí wọ́n ti pa ènìyàn 43 nípínlẹ̀ Borno ní kété lẹ́yìn àbẹ̀wò tó ṣe sí gómìnà Samuel Ortom. Mínísítà ń bọkànjẹ́ lórí àwọn ohun tó ń ṣàdínàgbòkú lórí ogun gbígbé ti àwọn ọmọ ikọ̀ aṣẹ̀rùbálù Boko Haram. Ó sọ wípé ọ̀rọ̀ wọn ti kúrò lọ́rọ̀ tí a fi ń ṣàwẹ́wà báyìí gẹ́gẹ́ bí ó ṣe ṣàpèjúwe ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ tó wáyé náà nípínlẹ̀ Borno gẹ́gẹ́ bí àdánù ńlá fúnlẹ̀ wa Nàìjíríà. Ó tún ṣàlàyé wípé iṣẹ́ ọwọ́ àwọn ọmọ ikọ̀ alákatakítí aṣẹ̀rùbàlù yóò máa tẹ̀síwájú sí i nítorí tí wọ́n kọ̀ láti ta àwọn irinṣẹ́ ìjagun fúnlẹ̀ wa Nàìjíríà àti wípé ẹ̀mí àwọn ọmọ ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà dọwọ́ Ọlọ́run lọ́wọ́ àwọn ọmọ ikọ̀ alákatakítí aṣẹ̀rùbàlù. Ikọ̀ oníṣẹ́ tíjọba àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa gbé dìde lẹ́yìn tí ààrẹ ilé-ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin àgbà ilẹ̀ wa Ahmad Lawan ṣáájú wọn gúnlẹ̀ sílùú Maiduguri nípínlẹ̀ Borno lónìí láti lọ bá àwọn ènìyàn ìpínlẹ̀ ọ̀hún kẹ́dùn lórí ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ bí wọ́n ṣe ṣekú pa àwọn àgbẹ̀ níbẹ̀ lópin ọ̀sẹ̀ látọwọ́ àwọn ọmọ ikọ̀ alákatakítí aṣẹ̀rùbàlù. Lára àwọn tí wọ́n wà nínú ikọ̀ oníṣẹ́ ọ̀hún láti rí olórí ìṣẹ́ sí ààrẹ ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Ibrahim Gambari, mínísítà fún olúùlú ilẹ̀ wa Mohammed Bello, mínísítà fọ́rọ̀ ìbáraẹnisọ̀rọ̀ Ali Pantami àti mínísítà fọ́rọ̀ ètò ọ̀gbìn nílẹ̀ wa Mustapha Baba Shehu. Àwọn ikọ̀ oníṣẹ́ ọ̀hún ni wọ́n wà nípínlẹ̀ Borno láti ṣojú fún ààrẹ Muhammadu Buhari àti ìjọba àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa láti bá àwọn ẹbí àwọn tí wọ́n fara lùgbàdì níbi ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ burúkú náà. Ìjọba àtàwọn ènìyàn ìpínlẹ̀ ọ̀hún kẹ́dùn àwọn ènìyàn wọn. Ẹ̀wẹ̀ nínú ìròyìn míì, iléeṣẹ́ ààrẹ ilẹ̀ wa ti sọ wípé àwọn àgbẹ̀ 43 tí kò Boko Haram ṣekú pa lọ́jọ́ àbámẹ́ta Sátidé ni wọn ò gbàṣẹ lọ́dọ̀ àjọ ọmọ ológun ilẹ̀ wa kí wọ́n tó forí lé inú oko ìrẹsì wọn lọ. Abẹ́ṣekọ́wọ́ àgbà sí ààrẹ lẹ́ka ètò ìròyìn ìpolongo Garba Shehu ló sọ ọ̀rọ̀ yìí síta lásìkò tí iléeṣẹ́ ìròyìn BBC ń béèrè ọ̀rọ̀ lọ́wọ́ rẹ̀ lórí ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ náà lónìí. Ó sọ yìí pé níwọ̀n ìgbà tí òun ò lè di ẹ̀bi ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ náà ru àwọn ènìyàn tí wọ́n pàdánù ẹ̀mí wọn náà, ṣùgbọ́n síbẹ̀síbẹ̀ òótọ́rọ̀ kò ní kí wọ́n má sọ òun. Agbẹnusọ ààrẹ ọ̀hún tún tẹ̀síwájú pé àwọn ọmọ ikọ̀ Boko Haram ni wọ́n ti gbalẹ̀ lọ tí wọ́n sì ti jayé ọlọ́ba nípínlẹ̀ Borno tí kò sì sí ẹni tó gbọ́dọ̀ ṣí wọn lọ́wọ́ láwọn ààyè ibi tí wọ́n ti gba ààyè dé àfi tí àwọn ọmọ ológun bá sọ fún àwọn ènìyàn láti rìn sí àwọn ààyè náà. Àjọ amúnimádà àjọ EFCC títún wọ akọ̀wé ìjọba àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa tẹ́lẹ̀ Bashir Lawal lọ síwájú ilé ẹjọ́ gíga tó wà lágbègbè Maitama lórí ẹ̀sùn wípé ó lọ́wọ́ sí jìbìtì $50 bílíọ̀nù náírà, owó tí wọ́n sọ wípé wọ́n fi gé koríko. Lawan ẹni tó wà nípò gẹ́gẹ́ bí SGF lábẹ́ ààrẹ Muhammadu Buhari láàrin ọjọ́ 27 oṣù kẹjọ ọdún 2015 sí 30 oṣù kẹwàá ọdún 2017 ló tún sọ níwájú ilé ẹjọ́ wípé òun ò jẹ̀bi ẹ̀sùn olóǹkà 10 tí àjọ EFCC tó wọ́ lọ sí ilé ẹjọ́ ṣàtúnṣe rẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn 6 tó kù rẹ̀ tí wọ́n jọ ń káwọ́ pọ̀nyìn rojọ́ níwájú ilé ẹjọ́. Wọ́n fẹ̀sùn kan SGF tẹ́lẹ̀ ọ̀hún pẹ̀lú àwọn tó kù rẹ̀ wípé wọ́n gbìmọ̀pọ̀ láti gbé owó iṣẹ́ àkànṣe tíjọba yà sọ́tọ̀ fún àwọn apá àríwá ìlà oòrùn ilẹ̀ wa gbogbo bòmíì lọ tó sì gbé iṣẹ́ àkànṣe náà eléyìí tí wọ́n ní kí wọ́n fi gé koríko láwọn ibùdó IDPs fún iléeṣẹ́ ara rẹ̀. Ilé ẹjọ́ gíga ìjọba àpapọ̀ tó fìkàlẹ̀ sílùú Àbújá ti gba ẹ̀bẹ̀ àwọn ẹgbẹ́ méjì wọlé eléyìí tí wọ́n fi bèrè fún kí ilé ẹjọ́ pa láṣẹ fún gómìnà ilé ìfowópamọ́sí àgbà ilẹ̀ wa CBN àtàwọn míì láti pèsè ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ àwọn ẹ̀bùn owó tó lẹ́ẹ̀dẹ̀ rí gbà wọlé lórí ọ̀rọ̀ àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn COVID-19. onídàájọ́ Inyang Eko lásìkò tó ń gbé ìdájọ́ rẹ̀ jẹlẹ̀ lónìí tún gbà wọ́n láàyè láti pẹjọ́ síwájú ilé ẹjọ́ tí ilé ìfowópamọ́sí àgbà ilé wa CBN bá kọ̀ láti sọ gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n fún ilé wa lówó bí wọ́n ṣe ná àwọn owó náà àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ wípé wọ́n tẹ ẹ̀tọ́ àwọn oníròyìn tó jẹ́ tiwọn lójúmọ́lẹ̀ àti ẹ̀tọ́ aráàlú lójúmọ́lẹ̀ pẹ̀lú ẹjọ́ ní àjọ ajàfẹ́tọ̀ọ́ aráàlú ní àjọ ajàfẹ́tọ̀ọ́ aráàlú ní àjọ serap àti àjọ ida pé tí wọ́n sì kọ orúkọ ilé ìfowópamọ́sí àgbà ilé wa CBN gẹ́gẹ́ bí olùjẹ́jọ́ àkọ́kọ́. Onídàájọ́ Eko tún pàṣẹ fún ẹgbẹ́ méjèèjì láti pẹjọ́ náà láàrin ọjọ́ méje tó sì gbọdọ̀ tẹ àwọn olùjẹ́jọ́ lọ́wọ́ láàrin ọjọ́ méje bákan náà tí onídàájọ́ sì tún pàṣẹ fún àwọn olùjẹ́jọ́ wípé ní kété tí wọ́n bá ti rí ìwé ìpẹ̀jọ́ náà gbà kí wọ́n pẹjọ́ tiwọn láàrin 30 ọjọ́ pẹ̀lú ẹjọ́ tí àwọn tó pe ẹjọ́ ń pè ní láti pa láṣẹ fún gómìnà ilé ìfowópamọ́sí àgbà ilé wa CBN láti ṣàgbéjáde lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ iye ẹ̀bùn owó tílẹ̀ wá rí gbà láti kojú àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn COVID-19 títí di àkókò yìí. Ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga fásitì tìlú Ìbàdàn lóde ti dìbò yan ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Adébọ́lá Babátúndé Èkánọlá gẹ́gẹ́ bí gíwá àgbà ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga fásitì ọ̀hún tuntun kí wọ́n ó tó dìbò yàn. Èkánọlá ló wà nípò igbákejì gíwá àgbà ilé ẹ̀kọ́ ọ̀hún lẹ́ka ètò ìkẹ́kọ̀ọ́. Wọ́n dìbò yàn lónìí tí ń ṣe ọjọ́ tí sáà ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Ìdòwú Ọláyínká tẹnubẹ́po gan gẹ́gẹ́ bí gíwá àgbà ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga fásitì ọ̀hún. Èkánọlá ni wọ́n sọ wípé ó ní ìbò 275 láti fẹ̀yìn àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n mẹ́rin tó kù tí wọ́n jọ fà kalẹ̀ fún ipò náà janlẹ̀. Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n A. Olúlẹ̀yẹ ni wọ́n sọ wípé òun ní ìbò 80 láti fi wà ní ipò kejì nígbà tí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Àdìgún Àgbájé ní ìbò 15 láti fi wà ní ipò kẹta tí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Gbémisọ́lá Òkè sì ní ìbò 14 tí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Ọlánìkẹ́ Adéyẹmí tí òun náà sì ní ìbò 3. Olórí oko ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ọ̀gbẹ́ni Ṣèyí Mákindé lónìí sọ wípé àtòun àti gómìnà Adégbóyèga Oyètọ́lá ti ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun gbọ́dọ̀ pa ọ̀rọ̀ òṣèlú tì sẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ kan láti lè yanjú wàhálà tó ti wà nílẹ̀ lórí ta ló ní ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga fásitì Ládòkè Akíntọ́lá University of Technology tó wà nílùú Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ tí wọ́n jùmọ̀ pọ̀ ní. Mákindé ẹni tó sọ̀rọ̀ nílùú Òṣogbo lásìkò àbẹ̀wò ẹ ṣeun àdúpẹ́ tó ṣe sí Oyètọ́lá lọ́fíìsì rẹ̀ ó sọ gbangba wípé ojúgbà òun láti ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun ló jẹ́ adarí rere nítorí tó gbé ìfẹ́ àwọn akẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga ọ̀hún síwájú ju ohun gbogbo lọ. Ó sọ wípé nígbà tí ọ̀rọ̀ náà kàdàǹgbà tán oríṣiríṣi ikọ̀ láti ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga ọ̀hún ni wọ́n sọ oríṣiríṣi ọ̀rọ̀ fún òun àti Oyètọ́lá pẹ̀lú ṣùgbọ́n tó wòye wípé ju gbogbo rẹ̀ lọ ìfẹ́ àti ọjọ́ ọ̀la àwọn akẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tí wọ́n wà nílé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga náà ló gbọdọ̀ jẹ àwọn méjèèjì lógún. Ó wá sọ̀rọ̀ ìdánilójú pé lábẹ́ bó ti wù kórí àǹfààní kan náà làwọn ọmọ bíbí ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun àti ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ tí wọ́n bá wà nílé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga fásitì Akíntọ́lá Ládòkè Akíntọ́lá University of Technology yóò máa jẹ lábẹ́ ìjọba. Àwọn olùgbé nílẹ̀ ìgbé Asadam Housing Estate Phase 1 nílùú Ìlọrin ti rawọ́ ẹ̀bẹ̀ sí gómìnà Abdulrasaq Abdulrahman láti wá gbà wọ́n sílẹ̀ lórí àwọn kòtò gìrìwò tí àgbàrá òjò ń dá sílẹ̀ nílé ìgbé ọ̀hún. Alága àwọn olùgbé nínú ẹ́stéètì ọ̀hún ọmọọba Adélékè Adéwùmí ẹni tó rawọ́ ẹ̀bẹ̀ yìí lórúkọ àwọn olùgbé ibẹ̀ ṣàpèjúwe irú àìbalẹ̀ ọkàn tí kòtò gìrìwò tójò ń dá sílẹ̀ náà ń fún àwọn olùgbé inú ẹ́stéètì ọ̀hún. Ó ṣàlàyé pé ohun tí àkókò òjò tó ré kọjá lọ fojú wọn rí nílé ẹ́stéètì ọ̀hún kì í ṣe kèrèmí rárá. Adéwùmí wá sọ wípé ìpè àti ìrawọ́ ẹ̀bẹ̀ lásìkò yìí ló pọn dandan ṣáájú kí àkókò òjò mìíràn ó tó tó. Ó wá ké sí gómìnà Abdulrahman Abdulrasaq láti tètè dìde fún ìrànlọ́wọ́ wọn gẹ́gẹ́ bó ti ṣe fún àwọn ènìyàn agbègbè mìíràn. Àkójọpọ̀ ìròyìn ọjọ́rọ̀ tòní kò ní jù báyìí lọ ṣùgbọ́n kí a tó máa lọ ẹ tó gbọ́ àwọn kókó tó wà nínú ìròyìn ọ̀hún lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí i. Mínísítà fẹ́tò ìròyìn àṣà àti ìnàjò afẹ́ nílẹ̀ wa Lai Mohammed ti tẹnumọ́ ìlàkàkà ìjọba àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa láì dáàbòbò ẹ̀mí àwọn ọmọ ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Ilé ẹjọ́ gíga ìjọba àpapọ̀ ti gba ẹjọ́ àwọn ẹgbẹ́ méjì wọlé láti pẹjọ́ kí wọ́n sì pa á láṣẹ fún ilé ìfowópamọ́sí àgbà ilẹ̀ wa CBN láti ṣàgbéjáde lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ àwọn ẹ̀bùn owó tílẹ̀ wa Nàìjíríà rí gbà wọlé lọ́rọ̀ àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn coronavirus. Àjọ amúnimádà EFCC ti tún fojú akọ̀wé síjọba àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa tẹ́lẹ̀ Bashir Lawal ba ilé ẹjọ́ lórí ẹ̀sùn lílọ́wọ́ sí jìbìtì lílù lórí owó iṣẹ́ kọngílà koríko gígé. Lákòótán kí a tó máa lọ, àwọn olùgbé nílé ìgbé Asadam Housing Estate Phase 1 ti ké gbàjarè síta lórí kòtò ìwò tí àgbàrá òjò ń dá sílẹ̀ níbẹ̀. Wọ́n pè fún ìrànwọ́ ìjọba. Dada Olúwabámiṣẹ́ òun ló ṣe àkójọpọ̀ rẹ̀ yìí lédè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì. Ọláyínká Òṣàyọ̀mí ló tú lọ́kà lédè àbínibí. Ọlá túnrìn yìí lédè àbínibí yóò máa dé sí etí ìgbọ̀nyín títí ọ̀la ọ̀hún onímọ̀ kí wa lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí wípé a kú iṣẹ́ òní òun oorun rẹ̀ òun la ó sùn ó dàárọ̀ o.
ní ká máa fipá báni lò pọ̀ àbí ká máa fìbálòpọ̀ tàbùkù ẹni láwùjọ ká máa bọ́mọdé láṣepọ̀ àbí kí àgbà mọ́lẹ̀ bí ò ṣe bófin Ọlọ́run náà ni ò bá òfin lẹ̀ wá mú ẹni bá wá dẹ́rù rẹ̀ wò kò yẹ kó máa gbé láwùjọ àwọn èèyàn mọ́ ọjọ́ tọwọ́ pálábá rẹ̀ bá wá ségi ni bàrà rẹ̀ ò rí jà kù mọ́ gbogbo ẹni bá wá ń ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ tàbí tó ń gbà á lérò ẹ yá tètè lọ jáwọ́ o bí bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ òfin ọ̀mù Ọlọ́run ó mú ọ.
Ìkìlọ̀ yìí wá láti iléeṣẹ́ Royal FM 95.1 Ìlọrin.